Good morning. Thanks for joining Family Caregiver Alliance for Closing the Gap, How to Care from Afar. I'm Calvin Hu, Education Coordinator at FCA and your host. For nearly 4 decades, FCA has been working across the Bay Area and the nation to improve the well-being of family caregivers. We offer support through consultations, classes, workshops, publications, retreats, research, and advocacy. If you'd like to learn more about us or access our online resources, please visit www.caregiver.org. And now just for some quick housekeeping. So during the webinar, your phones or microphones are going to be muted. So if you have any questions, you can ask them by using the chat-style question box on your screen. We'll answer as many questions as we can at the end of the webinar. We're also going to ask that you give a little bit of feedback after the webinar ends. We use this to help shape future education programs. So I'd like to thank you all in advance for filling those out. I read all the comments, and we really do value your input. So today I'd like to welcome Lady Markham. Lady holds degrees in nursing, gerontology, hospitality. She has worked in home care for 5 years and actually long-term care communities for 10 years. So she's very experienced. She's, approaches from many different aspects. And her main kind of focus is to promote wellness and high standards and quality of life for both her clients and their families. Lady's also a registered nurse. Kind of part of this, she is a mentor and a teacher to a pretty big staff of almost 100 caregivers. And these caregivers provide holistic and kind of practical care to their clients. She's a member of the Professional Association Case Management Society of America, as well as Aging Life Care Association. So these are all part of the kind of continuing education, kind of keeping up with the most up-to-date information to make sure she is the most well-informed and able to help older adults make the most of their lives. She is also a certified care manager. You're going to hear a little bit more about what these people do a little bit later in the webinar. And again, her overall approach is kind of holistic, mindful approach to working with older adults and kind of being especially mindful and cognizant of their specific and unique needs and concerns. Just as kind of an aside, Lady is actually kind of a longtime collaborator with FCA. She's done a webinar in past with us on what aging does to your body. You can look it up on our webinar page at caregiver.org. She's also been a presenter with us at our Caregiver College last year. She gave a great presentation on transfer skills. So she had gait belts, transfer boards, the whole 9 yards. It was a really kind of cool presentation. Anyways, now that you know a little bit more about Lady, I'd like to turn things over to her.
Thank you, Calvin. It's good to be here. So today we're going to be talking about closing the gap, how to care from afar. So our objectives today are to recognize changes in the unmet needs of loved ones and identify helpful resources and technology to help you feel closer and produce an action plan to follow through even at a distance. This webinar will explain a number of different ways you'll be able to recognize the changes in your loved one. We are going to be using examples, and please remember, each person is different and the needs vary greatly. We'll discuss how to all these things as well as possible. And next. So let's start with some statistics. 3.3 million of 7 million caregivers identify as long-distance caregivers. On average, long-distance caregivers live 480 miles away from the person that you're caring for, and travel can be up to 4 hours away. And the average long-distance caregiver are mostly women of around 46 years of age, caring for an older adult that's 76. These statistics show that you're not alone. There are many others all around us who are facing this challenge. We can use this to our advantage by sharing information and emotional support. We need to look out for one another. There are associations, support groups, and even nonprofit organizations like Family Caregivers Alliance, for example. Reaching out is important so we don't all try to go out and reinvent the wheel. Next. This is a very informal case study to showcase an individual with typical needs. So our case study is an 82-year-old woman who's widowed, 15 years, and living alone. She has one daughter living in another state about 500 miles away, and normally she calls once a week or visits on major holidays. She is active in the church and is a good bridge player, but she's been missing frequently. She has hypothyroidism. She's had type 2 diabetes for about 25 years, has been diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, and she's a breast cancer survivor of 30 years. Normally, she's 5'2" and weighs 170 pounds, but recently is now 138. Our case study shows a woman who is quite normal in today's society. She has a support system of friends, but hasn't wanted to bother anyone with her current situation. It may be pride or embarrassment, but we often refer to it as self-neglect. Next. Using all your senses is imagine a visit when you take in the sights, sounds, smells, and tastes of change. When you go to see your mother, she is shuffling instead of her usual stride to give you a hug. It's been 3 months since your last visit. Mail is piled up on the dining room table. There are papers all around one empty spot on the couch. She offers you something to eat, and you notice that the ice cream tastes like onions. She's only rinsed the bowl. The tap in the kitchen is dripping over a stack of dirty dishes. And you notice the faint smell of dried urine when you walk towards the bathroom and bedroom. Your senses make up how you connect to the outside world. And some people, as they age, lose those abilities. Some older adults experience losses in hearing, sight, or vision, taste due to medication, touch due to neuropathies in the hands and feet, which can be caused by diabetes, medication, alcoholism, and hypothyroidism, just to name a few. What are the underlying needs that she has? First, we see a change in her gait, shuffling instead of walking. Take a look at her footwear. Is she wearing those old tatty slippers that are worn through and shuffling just to keep them on her feet? Or is she weak and uncoordinated because perhaps due to dehydration or not taking her medications regularly? Why hasn't she looked at her mail? Are her glasses broken? Does she need a new pair? Does she no longer understand the need to open the bills? Why has this fastidious woman you have known all your life suddenly not able to wash a dish properly? Why is she neglecting her lovely home? Is she depressed? Has something happened recently? Or is she just having trouble doing simple household chores because of pain? Hygiene is also a new concern because of the odor. Has the laundry been done? Is she having trouble making it to the bathroom on time? Questioning the medications and her physical abilities are good places to start. We need to ask questions and investigate as best we can to try to find the true causes of these concerns and helpful resources to allow her to remain as independent as possible. Next. So where do we begin? We need to listen to people. And we want to also be able to look through their mail, do the bills, and try as best we can to figure out, is it medication? Is she eating regularly? And we also would love to be able to contact a number of people, like a lawyer, a doctor, any of her specialists, and find out her finances, just to help her, if possible. These are some important things to start with, but understanding what is perceived to be problems may be misunderstandings or poor execution. Let's take medication. There may be some overlap because of specialists and multiple uses of pharmacies. A lot of people do that because one pharmacy will be much less expensive than another. One look at the medication bottles may tell you if there is a need for more oversight. For example, if the date of the last refill for 30 pills is much longer than the amount dispensed. Today is August 31st. The last refill was June 18th, and there's 20 pills left. See what I mean? As we have discussed, there are many questions to ask, but I urge you not to try to get all the answers at once. Give them time to adjust to having somebody in their space, questioning them. Give them assurances that you respect their privacy and want to understand their boundaries. Next. We need to pull everything together, and I like to call this my face sheet. List of contacts, identifying the medical conditions in the list of doctors and medications, finding out who the financial and the medical durable powers of attorney are, collecting the bank account information, if there's a safety deposit box, a list of creditors and monthly and quarterly bills, insurance information, especially if they have their medical insurance, their home insurance, and long-term care insurance. And wills and trusts are kind of an afterthought. Sitting down and having a discussion with your loved one about his or her opinions on their situation is important. Finding out what they feel is missing and help them by pointing out areas that they could use some help. But please be careful not to insult them. I've had people say that they like their home the way it is, and I ask them, when was the last time they cleaned out the fridge? They usually can't remember, so I try and say, I have somebody just for that. I also try to get them to agree to have somebody maybe once a month even, easing them into accepting somebody to help them with something they can see or feel a difference. For example, yard cleaning or scrubbing the tub. As you find out some diagnoses regarding medical conditions, it's a good time to learn more. The internet is always a easy place to find information, but please stick to reputable sites like the Mayo Clinic, WebMD, and organizations for specific diseases like Alzheimer's Association. This is all a learning curve, so please be gentle on yourself. All these items, except for the trusts and wills, can fit on one page so that you can keep on hand or have electronically available. Next. So safety. From afar, this is hard to manage, but it's not impossible. There's checks and balances can go a long way ensuring your loved one is taking care of themselves. Self-neglect often occurs because they don't want to be a burden to others. Getting them to know how much you care and want to help is usually key. I find making a pact with them to always call when they've fallen or don't feel well, and even just to say hello if they're lonely. This gets easier once a schedule is kind of set. My father lives in another country. I call him on Sunday. My brother calls him every single morning. They look forward to that, and they're compelled to say something about how they're feeling and what they're up to. This is the best time to remind them, have you taken a bath? Or, hey, how about a drink of Ensure or water? When you call, this can make the difference in their day, and you can track unusual occurrences. For instance, I heard from somebody recently, a trend in elder abuse is a call from somebody saying they're from the IRS. They're very menacing, and they make very hurried demands for money. Or you might find out that your loved one's been constipated for 4 days, and they really need to get something from the pharmacy. Or the light in the bathroom has burnt out and you need to find somebody to get over there right away because it's a fall risk. Open communication will always help build trust. Also, knowing your loved one is thinking, how they're thinking can help you support them. Conversations can reveal if they're using good or poor judgment. I like to ask, what would they do if they saw sparks or fire at a wall outlet? I kind of look for safe and appropriate answers like, I'd turn off the item, or I'd use the fire extinguisher. I'd call 911, or I'd leave. Those are important things to know, to kind of have an idea of their mindset. Visiting also reveals if they've been having hallucinations or paranoia, or if they've been disoriented or lost. This, of course, then opens up a conversation regarding the use of in-home care or a move to an assisted living or a board and care. Next. Identifying for everyone. Here's an example of a medication list that can ease repetition because it gives all the information needed. I like to have one with pictures, or better yet, gluing an actual pill to the list. It's well worth it to bring all the medication and supplements to the pharmacy also to get a medication review. The pharmacist can be so helpful because they know the interactions of many of the compounds in the meds. Some supplements can be counterproductive to some medications, and that might lead to doctors prescribing a higher dose, which is harder on the liver and kidneys. If you're using a mail order like scripts, you can call and ask for the pharmacist to do an over-the-phone review. We also want to know who is responsible for the reordering of the medication and have a plan if there's a medication change anywhere throughout the month. As an aside, when my father had to have day surgery, he was going to be taken off 2 medications for 72 hours. He gets pre-packaged pills, but I had to call my care manager in Canada to find out that we had to send those prepackaged pills to the pharmacy to get those removed because the aides were not legally able to touch those. And so it just became a real hassle. So having a plan in place is a good idea. Next. Issues to look out for. Here we have the moment of truth. The physical needs are evaluated by what you see, hear, smell, and touch. That hug you had when you came in, she felt so small in your arms. How much weight has she lost in 3 months? Her hair doesn't look like it's been done in months. The roots are growing out. She looks haggard. Has she been sleeping okay? Her clothes have spots on the front, and you notice she hasn't changed when into something clean the next day, but puts on the same thing she wore yesterday. We need to tread cautiously because her hygiene is very personal, but she may require suggestions and support for incontinence. We need to find out more, and a trip to the doctor may be in order. I might, as a care manager, ask questions about her mood as well. How's she been feeling? How is she coping with changes in her body or spirit? I might ask her if she's been thinking of giving up, and what does that mean to her? It might well be she's experienced a big loss, like a friend who gave her a ride to church and the bridge club. Maybe that's why she's been missing. We need to dig deeper to find reasons for change and help her with those and help her adapt. We want to take the time to note any changes like frequent anger, unprovoked outbursts, fearfulness, and withdrawal. Also, all those things and inappropriate behavior can be red flags. Next. Under Maslow's law, one needs to feel safe and secure with a roof over your head and food in your stomach. We are far from a caveman-like existence, but we do need to identify what is needed to keep the home livable. We want to be sure our loved one is able to continue to stay safely in the home. We look at the incidentals of transportation, socializing, and upkeep in this slide. We want to find who, what, when, and how are the questions we need to answer. We might use ride shares or paratransit for transportation. We also would love to make sure that they're getting some me time for those individuals, because they need to self-identify. They're the ones that are the really good bridge players, or they're very, very active in the day program. Also, keeping up with the home, and we would love to make it easier on them to stop worrying about day-to-day challenges of home upkeep. You could even use TaskRabbit or Rebuilding America for simple and cost-effective ways to get these jobs done, and also do some safety modifications if necessary. Next. Well, resources and technology is our next section. We're going to try to stay local with the people that we're getting to help. The internet comes in very handy here. We want to try some searches for in the area that your loved one is in for senior resources. Maybe the city of wherever has a department of aging or an agency on aging. Also try and contact local senior centers for resources. With your loved one's permission, you might call and speak to their close friends and get another side to the story. Be open, but please don't compromise their privacy. Next. Having another person, the use of a care manager who has experience, can be super beneficial. Let's take an emergency situation. This person, who is local to your loved one, could be at the home or hospital before you even get packed in a flight booked. They can assess what's happened. They can be your voice for you and your loved one. A good care manager knows the common issues around an emergency room and getting the most out of a visit. A good care manager is aware of who to speak to and what questions to ask, so they can report back to you with pertinent information. A good care manager has been around and knows the good, the bad, and the ugly rehabs or nursing homes, and how to get a bed in a good one. They cost between $100 to $200 depending on where you live, but they can save valuable time for you as you try to learn all the ins and outs of a broken system for ailing older adults. Stable clients usually see them once or twice a month. Clients having more complicated medical issues may need them more often, but the cost may even out if you're looking at a plane flight, rental car, and time off work to see to your ailing loved one. Next. There's so many options in technology that exist and are changing frequently. To be sure, we want to carefully evaluate each one to suit your needs and try and anticipate growing needs. Here I've just put two different types of applications for medication, but setting up a good medication program starts with a visit to your pharmacist or primary care physician. Did you know that your pharmacist will call your primary care physician or specialist if if they can, to recommend a more efficient dose or medication after that review. And doctors are grateful for professional consults, all to provide the most effective treatment for you. So you can also ask your pharmacist if they make bubble packs. This is a simple way for your loved one to get their medication all in prepackaged form. It can be tailored for different times of day and night, but it really is best if you know that your loved one's medications are very stable. There's a small fee for this service. Or you can do a month's worth of medication pill boxes. But whoever's filling them needs to have a very sharp eye to keep consistency. You might want to ask your care manager if they know a local nurse. And as I put up there are also pill boxes with alarms and dispensers, and ones that can be programmed to tell you if the person has opened the box or not. And you can also always call and remind them too. Whatever you use, be sure to have a way to double check if the medications are being missed. If so, another tool may have to be used. Staying in touch. Can you hear me now? Well, nothing is more frustrating for us and the older adult not to be able to communicate. My father is hard of hearing. He told me that he feels like he is underwater most of the time because nothing sounds right. One of the saddest things he told me was, I feel I have lost half the world because of losing my hearing. This has stuck with me, and I try to encourage people not to accept substandard hearing aids and to get them adjusted often. Have you heard of the California Telephone Access Program? It's a free service for all Californians with landlines. They provide phones for all types of disabilities: hard of hearing, sight impaired, cognitive impairment, mobility, and speech disabilities. I also checked other states, and they have similar programs that are low or no cost. If you have the internet, then you might be able to set up a computer or a tablet to allow for FaceTime or Skype. You might be able to communicate with them through email or texting. They're simple and easy little notes to each other. If you can, try out a friendly visitor if your loved one is homebound. There's many different organizations that have people who want to volunteer. I like to practice what I preach. My mother-in-law and I live in different countries, but we play Scrabble every night on our tablets. It has a chat function, which is like a message function, which we use to keep up to date and make comments. It's a connection. There are even game consoles that have cameras and microphones that you can use to play interactive games like bowling or tennis, and you can hear and see each other. We live in a connected world. Each of us can learn ways to keep the lines of communication open. I have some tips as well up here. We want to try not to rush your agenda when you speak to them, and listen to what they have to say. Please try and have calm conversations to show them that you care. Use their wants as a basis to their plan of care, especially when you're doing it with a whole family. Then everyone knows. Don't criticize. Try to bring up concerns by relating to others. Oh, Uncle Sam used to have this problem. Do you remember what he did? That kind of thing. When pulling together personal information, explain that you again respect their privacy, but you want to protect them in case of an emergency. And if you're not successful in communicating, then bring in a respected third party, like a lawyer or a friend or a social worker. Next. Okay, so planning and technology. I've just named a few of these. Calendar sharing They're free. eCareDiary.com, lotsofhelpinghands.com, and mealtrain.com. We all have some support systems, but getting them to help just got easier with technology. It's a busy world, and these online aids are free and help you keep a handle on what's happening. Calendar sharing is the main focus for these sites, but they can also send out broadcasts asking others to lend a hand. They can update people on changes of condition or an appointment that needs to be covered. It is also rewarding to take a shift and know that others in the group can see what you have contributed. These work well for recuperating our sick friends and family. Also, we don't want to forget our good friends at Meals on Wheels. They do a terrific job by offering low-cost nutritional meals with a wellness check as an added bonus. Next. Safety and technology. There are homes completely wired to detect any movement, noise, even the opening of a fridge door. These smart houses can be linked to alerts to another person a world away. The temperature can be adjusted. You can even water the grass from a smartphone. Technology is constantly changing, but it offers many benefits. There are wearable watches, pendants, and jewelry that are also GPS trackers, great for people who may be at risk for getting lost. Options are abundantly available, but it takes some looking. Access to the home is important. If there are more than 3 people needed to come and go, it may be a good idea to install a combination lock on the door. This can be easily reprogrammed if there's a change in caregivers. The low-tech version are those realtor key boxes. We do need to make sure the loved one approves of the use of technology and how it affects their privacy. Talk to them about the pros and cons of having someone monitoring them. Most often, people do see that it's worth it to protect them from any incidents. I'd like to mention a quick tip for those of you who are thinking about or have a life alert or personal alarm installed. Many older adults feel more secure with them, but some get very used to wearing it, and when a fall occurs, they forget to push the button. I've seen this several times, and have found people dehydrated lying there, and when asked, "Why didn't you push the button?" they say, "Oh, I forgot about it." Ask your loved one to sit in the bathroom, keep the door slightly ajar, and push the button when the monitor calls out and says, "Mrs. Smith, can I help you?" Be sure they can hear them and respond, "I'm testing the system." This way, you know they know how to push the button, they get the experience of using the system, and you know they can communicate in the most common place for falls. Next. Now we have the action plan. Much of the items are well documented on the internet. I've noticed that Family Caregivers Alliance and National Institute on Aging have really some terrific free booklets. But I'd also like you to go out and try and build some relationships with others, because we can't do it alone. Look to friends, relatives, spiritual communities, and even veteran services. You need to keep yourself open to new ideas, but work your plan. Use an online document sharing app like Dropbox or Google Drive to create a plan and share it. As we looked at before, making a face sheet with all the information you gathered about the person. These are the logistics and a description of medical history. Add your personal information about maybe family dynamics, the person's work history and hobbies, and especially if they're cognitively impaired. I ask this all the time because this information is really ideal for positive redirection. I do want to warn you of being too type A, a personality trait of being very task driven. Of course, you have a short time to get things done when you visit, and you have your list, but try to rein in yourself. I've been in both the giving and receiving end of this as an assisted living director, and also at a skilled nursing facility. When that woman comes in with her list, that daughter, and heads straight towards me, it can be very difficult to pull in all the information, but letting them know that you're trying to be as direct but grateful as possible. So please try to be show that you do have some flexibility, and when you do that, usually your loved one ends up getting all the help they need in just the right way. Next, using all the information. Here's a little way of doing it that I like. You've done your homework now, and it's time to set down some goals. An action plan is not set in stone, but it's a guide to help you keep focused on what is needed. So lay out a 5-column grid, labeling the first as objectives, what you want to get done, the second as putting down who is that responsible person to be doing it, and having a target date. I also love to put in the resources needed, so it becomes a little bit more of a finer details that aren't going to be missed. And status. At least we know what's happening and if there's any roadblocks. And please celebrate when something's complete. So plan your trip ahead of time. Set up appointments ahead of time if possible. Please schedule time for visiting and connecting. Last time, for instance, I took my father out to the cemetery to see my mom. It was a real bonding moment, and we got to share some funny stories, and he really couldn't get out there anymore by himself. And it had been a long time since he'd visited. So that was something away from the list, and I think it made him pretty happy. So really try not to swoop in and out without connecting with your loved one. Next. What is the quality of life? Trying to provide moments when a sense of connection with another, of self-worth, of emotional, intellectual, or spiritual awareness is fulfilled. Taking the time, attention, creating a connection, and even a hug all can make a difference. So make time to do something other than the chores. You could even try reminiscing over photo albums, maybe making cookies or a meal together, going through the china cabinet or through the garage, I don't know, or going out for lunch or a museum. Whatever way that you have in the past connected is very helpful. I think I have gone through everything I have, but I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, lady. It's kind of one of these modern life things where everyone's living so far away, and this is just a really big issue. We always have a lot of interest about this kind of long distance caregiving subject. So we do appreciate it that you are able to spend, the morning with us. We have a little bit of time for questions now. So I think we should get right into it. First of all, I think just on the care manager, we had some pretty kind of clarifying questions. You mentioned that it was between $100 and $200. Is that per hour, per appointment?
That is per hour.
Okay, so that is per hour. And then in terms of actually how it would normally work, so you would, I'll ask kind of a follow-up question on how to find someone, but you would kind of, call an organization, you would set up an appointment, you would talk, and then and then they would kind of schedule an appointment to do like a home visit. Is that kind of how it frequently works?
Yes, exactly. Well, a good care manager is going to be somebody who's going to come in and do an assessment. That's when they come in. They talk to everybody and follow through with a safety evaluation of the home. They make recommendations for doctor's visits. They look at the medication. All those things need to be kind of done, as well as the psychosocial aspect.
Okay, so you would contact them and kind of use them as much as you might need, but it's not necessarily something that would be kind of an ongoing thing. Is that correct?
Oh, well, yes, actually, there's a couple of different ways you can use a care manager. It's really terrific if you can do that. If you're very unaware of what's happening, a care manager can kind of put together a plan with the family after doing these assessments, and you can use them if you're going to be staying in the home. If you decided to make a move, they can make some great suggestions and help you find the right location. They can, in fact, the other day I ended up doing helping a gentleman remain in his home, which was pretty unsafe. So I actually became kind of like a contractor by having all these people come in and redoing the plumbing and all these things. It was pretty interesting. But we do what we need to do to keep people safe.
Okay. And, I know you mentioned in terms of kind of, resources and, kind of keeping it local to the person. So, if someone was, both them and the person they're caring for are kind of in California, the Bay Area, or if there's someone who lives out of state and the person that their loved one is in, California, the Bay Area, then certainly they could give you compassionate community care in San Francisco. If, though, they are, neither parties live in California, or maybe the person who is in need of care doesn't live in California or the Bay Area, how would you recommend they find a care manager?
Well, I belong to an organization of certified care managers, two actually, but the Aging Life Care Association, so it's alca.org, has a wonderful tool that you can just put in your zip code, and a very large list of certified care managers will come up for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then just one, I think, looks for now, final question on the care managers. Is there a difference between a care manager and a case manager? Are those interchangeable? What's I guess maybe if you could kind of define the difference in those two terms.
Oh, that is a difficult one for me, because I use them pretty interchangeably. I think many people prefer care managers for maybe out of facility, and case managers for facilities and organizations.
Okay. So it is kind of used maybe a little bit interchangeably, but it is there is maybe a little bit of a slight difference in terms of kind of where it takes place. Now we have someone who had a question Actually, on the face sheets, let me actually pull back to that slide so everyone can see it. Pulling together. Yes, here it is. So the person asked about advanced directives. I assume maybe they're professional or maybe a very dialed-in caregiver, but they're wondering would advanced directives kind of play a part in this face sheet?
Oh, yes. When we're checking for financial and medical durable powers of attorney, that is where the advanced directives come in. That's where they would be named on.
Okay. And I guess for maybe some people who are not maybe familiar with the term, could you explain what an advanced directive is?
Well, an advanced directive is where you would be appointing somebody to follow your wants. You go through and you answer a number of different questions on first of all, your financial one is going to be all about who is going to be your trustee, who's going to be managing those financial needs, and then the durable power of attorney for your medical it can be done in two different ways. You can either appoint them to be able to start upon signing it, or you can appoint them only when you are no longer capable of speaking for yourself. And when I say that, there are two ways in which that can be different as well. One, if they are cognitively impaired and have had two doctors say that they have this cognitive impairment. And then the other is if you are not able to speak for yourself due to a physical condition or coma.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Lady and I were talking before just about kind of this whole planning aspect. The webinar was kind of centered around the premise that something has already happened, and then now kind of what are the kind of steps to do to kind of try and remedy, or not necessarily remedy, but to manage the situation. Whereas it seems that I think most people would agree that to be able to plan this out ahead would really be the best in terms of maybe getting a family meeting together and making sure that even when people are in sound body and mind, that they let everybody know, the friends, the adult children, kind of, and of course put it down in writing so there's the legal force of it, that everyone's kind of on the same page, so they know if they want heroic measures taken for if there's any kind of hospitalization or thing like that. Would you kind of agree that would be the kind of ideally that would be happen
right.
to try and plan this out?
There are a number of things that you do want to have on hand should anything happen, being the advanced directives, and if the person becomes even more frail, or then you want to have something called a physician's order for life-sustaining treatment on hand as well. We also call that a POLST, and that way you would not, at least in California right now, and I know that they're going all across the country, that way if something happens in the home, then the EMS, the emergency medical service, would come in. If they see that, then they automatically see your wants, like the do not resuscitate order is right there. You don't want somebody cracking your ribs and to perform CPR if that's not what your choice is.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, I think, not myself included, not a lot of people realize that CPR really is a bit of a traumatic process, and it usually does involve cracking ribs and breaking ribs. We do have a couple of information fact sheets on our website, caregiver.org. If you go to the top left under caregiver education, we have some fact sheets on things like conservatorship and guardianship, and also like legal planning for incapacity, which is kind of this whole aspect where if you're not able to communicate your wishes, how can you have things set up so people at least know what kind of care you would like. I have a related question about from a caregiver. I guess in this situation, there is a realization that their parents, these are of course adult children, are in need of some help, but at this point they, for whatever reason they don't or they're not ready to accept the help or maybe accept more control of their adult children and their kind of daily decision making, daily choices. So I mean, are there just in terms of this whole legal documents and things you've already mentioned in this venue, do these adult children actually have any particular rights or any, I hate to say recourse, but any ability to be able to really actively be able to provide for their parents' care if they're maybe unwilling or unable or at this point in time not willing to accept this care from their adult children?
If your family member hasn't appointed you as their durable power of attorney, you really have no rights. But in today's society, they do look to family members first. But if you don't really if they have a different idea of what they want, you don't have the right to override them. So putting together those advanced directives is key. And if you don't have one, if you're 18 or older, you really should have one. And if you don't have one, you can easily look on the internet and pull up one for your state and just have it witnessed, and it's legal. For them to get control, though, they would probably need to talk to their doctors, and if they didn't think that they were capable of executive function, able to make good decisions for themselves, then they would need to have up to 2 doctors state that and go through a lengthy court process.
Okay. Yeah, certainly, definitely. Thanks for that information. Yeah, it does seem like maybe with that, maybe with good reason that, the assumption is that the person is able to take care of themselves, and then you do have to, unless these documents are available, you do have to actually prove that they are in need of some kind of additional care, that they're not able to manage their own care. I'm going to, I think, switch gears a little bit. We have a question, a question about working with parents. This webinar listener has someone who is not doesn't really like doctors, doesn't like going to doctors' offices. Do you have any maybe tips or strategies on maybe how to kind of maybe get them to accept going to, I don't know that anyone necessarily likes going to doctors, but when they kind of really need to? Do you have any suggestions for this listener?
Oh, that's a good one. I have tried very hard to make it a very positive situation where we do something something that they enjoy first, and getting them to agree. Just getting them out the door is interesting. And I also look very hard for people that understand that person's, that they can relate to that doctor. If it's fighting each other or some hostility, I'd find a new doctor. And yeah.
Okay. I think we have time for one last question. This is... this is kind of a family dynamics question. It's someone who is, taking care of someone long distance, but it seems like they might be shouldering kind of a lot of the burden themselves, and they have wondered if you have any tips or advice on how to try and get other family members maybe a little bit more involved in the care to help them, help kind of lighten the load or kind of more evenly distribute the load of, all these kind of caregiving tasks.
Well, families have some very interesting dynamics, and it kind of falls to the people that can take on the most responsibility. But each person can support each other in some way, even if it's small. So what I've done is that okay, Greg is really good with finances. He's going to take care of the finances. Sue is interested in the medical part, so we'll do that, and just kind of divvying up all the responsibility, even if it's like just understanding. Oh well, we've got to start looking for home care. Could you please call the home care agencies in near Mom and find out what they offer, how much they cost, etc., and then set up the appointments. Just simple things like that can easily take a very large situation, make it, chop it up into smaller pieces. I also like to sometimes say to some people that they might benefit from respite. It's respite care is available all over the nation, and if you want, you can always try ARCH, ARCH. It's a national respite locator service. They can either provide somebody that could come in, or they could send you to other facilities that nice assisted living communities that have already furnished rooms and so forth, and be able to do the medication and just give everybody a little break.
Great, thanks. Yeah, we actually did a webinar on family dynamics, and yeah, that's one of the things that came up, that it seems like often what people are good at doing, they kind of enjoy doing, so it kind of makes sense to try and figure out, what people maybe enjoy or at least good at doing, and maybe would enjoy doing more, and then trying to, allocate tasks based on, based on that, versus just trying to kind of divide everything evenly, which might, some people just might be better at certain tasks. So that's great.
Playing to their strengths.
Mm-hmm, exactly, playing to their strengths. We do have a couple actually fact sheets too on this. It's on our website. It's if you go to Caregiver Education, on the top left bar under fact and tip sheets, we have a sheet on caregiving with your siblings and kind of holding a family meeting, which is, again, one of the things would be great if you could do it before something happens, but even after something happens, it's good for everyone to, get on the same page. Lastly, before we wrap up, I just wanted to mention one final resource we do have. It's our FCA Handbook for Long-Distance Caregivers, actually. You could Google FCA Handbook for Long-Distance Caregivers. Or you could go to our website, which is caregiver.org/handbook/long/distance/caregivers. So that's just maybe an additional resource if you found this webinar useful, and you maybe wanted to have something you could refer back to in terms of reading about kind of some things to be mindful in terms of long-distance caregiving. Okay, so I think that's about all the time we have. For today. I'd like to definitely thank Lady for participating with us today.
Thank you.
Sharing your time, working with us again. We're always very happy to have her over here. The FCA webinars are free. They are a continuing series. They are bi-monthly, so you can find out more information on upcoming webinars on our website, or on previous archived webinars. You can also find on our website, caregiver.org, if you go to the Caregiver Education and then click on webinars. Okay, well, so I think that's it for us, well, now this afternoon and everywhere in the United States. Thanks again, lady, for joining us today. The webinar is now concluded, and we hope to see you all next time.